Okay, so let's dive into this. And this really fascinating stack of source material you've shared with us. Everything here is centered on Italy,
That's right.
and it gives this incredibly high-resolution snapshot of a country that's, well, it's going through some major rapid shifts.
Especially where policy, culture, and, life itself all intersect.
Exactly. We've got Ministry of Health reports, brand new regional laws, and some really surprising findings about who's living the longest and maybe why.
And our mission today is really to cut through all that complexity, to give you a shortcut to understanding these huge recent movements,
We're talking about everything from the very beginning of life.
to the legal and ethical hurdles at the very end, and then we'll look at the sort of structural integrity of the healthcare system itself, which is world-renowned, but
But also very unequal depending on the region.
precisely. It really paints this picture of Italy grappling with modern medicine and these deep, complex legal questions.
But at the same time, it feels like they're still fundamentally leaning on their strengths. The deep cultural heritage and the quality of life they're famous for.
It is a remarkable balancing act, a kind of synthesis of tradition and, well, necessary innovation, both technologically and politically.
So let's start at the very beginning. Medically assisted procreation, or MAP. The statistics here are they're incredible, an absolute boom.
Yeah.
Italy recorded over 15,000 births through MAP in 2023.
That is the highest figure ever recorded. I mean, ever.
To put that in perspective,
Yeah.
what was it, a decade ago?
It's essentially doubled. In 2013, it was around 8,300. So we're looking at a situation where about 4% of all pregnancies in 2023 were achieved this way.
4%. Wow. So what was the catalyst for this massive spike? Was it just that the technology got better, or did something change with access?
Access is the absolute key here. There was a huge policy change when MAP was included in what's known as the Essential Levels of Care, the LEA.
Okay, and what does that mean for an average person?
It means the procedure should now be free, or at least require only a very small copay. So that immediately removes this massive financial barrier for so many couples.
That's a game changer.
A total game changer for accessibility. And we really expect this trend to keep going up.
The sources also paint a pretty clear picture of who is using these services.
They do. It's much more frequent among women over 35. It actually reaches 19.2% for women over 40.
And education level plays a role too.
Yes, it's more common for those with higher education, about 5.8%, which suggests that, while access has gotten better, there's still a link there between maybe economic stability, awareness, and using these advanced procedures.
Okay, now for the part that, this really disrupts the common perception of MAP. I always associated it with multiple births, twins, triplets.
Right, that used to be the case.
But the sources show a huge drop in twin births. What was the tipping point?
The tipping point was both legal and technological. So between about 2012 and 2015, the twin birth rate was high, something like 21%.
1 in 5.
Exactly. And the reason for that is because the law, up until 2009, actually required the implantation of all viable embryos, up to 3.
Wait, so it wasn't a choice, it was a legal mandate.
It was a legal requirement.
Yeah.
And that led to unnecessarily high rates of multiple pregnancies and all the health risks that come with them.
So what changed?
Well, after years of legal challenges and also just massive leaps in technology, allowing clinicians to screen and pick the healthiest single embryo, the best practice has completely shifted.
And the result of that shift is what?
It's stunning. In 2023, only 6.9% of MAP birth were twins.
Wow. That's a huge clinical improvement.
It is. It brings Italy right in line with the global standard, which is all about reducing high-risk multiple pregnancies.
Okay, if the tech and the laws change nationally, why do the sources show these big regional gaps? You have places like Puglia and Sicily still above 10% for twins, but then Umbria or Liguria are down at 2 or 3%. Is that about access to the tech?
That's the persistent challenge of Italy's decentralized system. It's probably a mix of things. While the national law allows single embryo transfer, local clinic protocols, maybe cultural pressures, and just a slower adoption of the newest screening tech in some areas all contribute.
So policy isn't always practice.
Exactly. It shows that even with a national change, implementation across the country is, well, it's far from uniform.
So if that's how life begins, let's pivot to the other end of the spectrum. The huge legal and ethical challenge of assisted death.
Right.
Assisted suicide has technically been legal in Italy since a big constitutional court ruling in 2019, but the national parliament just failed to act.
They failed to define any of the practical procedures. And this created a massive and frankly cruel legal void.
So the act wasn't illegal, but there was no actual pathway to access it.
Exactly. Which led to years of delays and legal battles for patients who were eligible. And that's why what Tuscany did is so monumental.
They were the first region to step in and pass their own law. What's the significance of a regional law on something this major?
It's hugely significant because it forces the issue. Tuscany passed a law, just 6 articles, that details the procedures, the roles, the timelines.
They filled the gap.
They actively filled that legal gap for their citizens, and that puts enormous pressure on the national government and on all the other regions.
And what is happening in the other regions? I know it's a bit of a patchwork.
It's a complete legal kaleidoscope.
Wow.
Proposals have been introduced in 16 other regions, but so many have been blocked or watered down or just abandoned. The result is just inconsistent, chaotic regulation. Your rights depend on your zip code.
Let's get into the specifics of the criteria because they are incredibly strict. They were set by that 2019 court ruling.
Yes, and a patient has to meet all 5 criteria simultaneously.
Okay, walk us through them. What's the first one?
First, the patient must be capable of making a free and informed decision. No coercion, no compromised judgment.
That's paramount. And the physical criteria.
You must suffer from an irreversible medical condition. Third, you have to be experiencing genuinely intolerable suffering, physical or psychological. And fourth, you have to clearly and unequivocally desire death.
So it's not just about the disease. It's about the intolerable suffering combined with the mental capacity to make the choice.
Precisely. And the 5th point is that you must depend on life-sustaining treatments.
There's another crucial detail in the sources, too, about other options.
Yes, this is critical. The patient must have refused all other therapeutic options. That includes deep and continuous sedation. So this is truly the final considered choice.
So how does Tuscany's law make sure this complex assessment actually happens? What's the mechanism?
The law mandates a really rigorous interdisciplinary assessment. A request goes to a specialized commission.
And this isn't just one doctor.
Oh no, the commission has a palliative care physician, a neurologist, a psychiatrist, an anesthesiologist, a nurse, and a psychologist.
That's a deliberately diverse team. Why a psychiatrist and psychologist?
To robustly assess that first criteria, the capacity for free and informed consent, and also to ensure the suffering is truly intolerable, not something treatable by other means. It ensures every angle is covered by an expert.
But the most critical part, given the years of waiting, has to be the timeline.
Yes. The entire process, from submitting the request to the final approval, is mandated to be completed in a maximum of 54 days.
54. That is revolutionary.
It's a massive shift from the years of uncertainty that patients faced. Many died before they could exercise this right.
It's the difference between a theoretical right and a functional one.
It is. Now, a small note of caution. The national government could still challenge this regional law, argue that the authority belongs to the state. So it might still face a fight, but for now, it provides certainty.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit to the national healthcare system as a whole. The Ministry of Health ranks the regions on things like hospital activity, prevention.
And the data reveals a very clear 2-track system. The top performers are consistently strong. Veneto, Tuscany, Trento, they lead the pack.
Why are they always at the top? Is it just about spending more money?
It's rarely just about spending. It's about efficiency, about prioritizing prevention. These top regions tend to have really effective primary care, which, keeps people out of expensive emergency rooms.
And at the bottom.
That's the problem. 8 regions are rated insufficient in at least one area, and Calabria is way at the bottom, which just shows this persistent quality gap in the south.
And yet, on the world stage, Italy's top hospitals are recognized as being among the best.
Absolutely. They punch high globally. A recent Newsweek ranking put 13 Italian hospitals in the world's top 250.
Any in the top 50.
2. Nigarda in Milan at 37th, and Gemelli in Rome at 44th. So you have these incredible centers of excellence, even with the internal regional struggles.
Let's narrow in on one of those areas of excellence. Cancer care. Specifically breast cancer. It's the most common for women, over 55,000 new cases a year.
It is, but the survival rate is very high. It's 88% overall, and over 90% if it's caught early.
And the sources say Italy is actually ahead of the curve in Europe on treatment.
They are. In terms of availability of new treatments, they're second only to Germany. They provide 40 out of the 48 treatments approved by the EMA, the European Medicines Agency.
So they're adopting new drugs quickly.
Much faster than the European average. It takes them about 417 days to get a drug to market, while the EU average is 559.
What about paying for them? These treatments are expensive.
They have one of the highest rates of full reimbursement, 78%. Only Germany and Scotland are higher. It's a huge win for patient access once you get a diagnosis.
So the treatment system is strong. What about the challenges in prevention?
The challenge is lifestyle and consistency. The sources note that nearly a quarter of cases are linked to modifiable risk factors.
Like what?
We're talking 6,000 cases a year just from excessive alcohol consumption. And then you have that same old story, regional disparities in screening, with the lowest rates in the South and the islands, a huge public health gap.
Okay, let's shift gears dramatically from policy and treatment to the ultimate health indicator, longevity. Italy is famous as a blue zone country.
Right, with Sardinia as the scientific symbol of Mediterranean longevity.
But the deeper analysis here is really interesting.
It is. Researchers confirmed the longevity in Sardinia is very real, but they're urging a change in how we think about it. It's not the whole island. The super longevity is highly localized. It's confined almost entirely to a few specific mountainous municipalities, Barbagia and Ogliastra.
So it's not just the Sardinian diet, it's something about these isolated high-altitude pockets.
Exactly. They identified this irreplaceable combination of factors. First, rare genetic variants from centuries of isolation. Second, incredibly strong social cohesion. The elderly have a vital role in the community.
And there was a surprise in the data too, right?
Huge one. Sardinia is unique globally for male longevity. In most blue zones, it's overwhelmingly women who live past 100. But here, you see super longevity in men at much higher rates.
So it's a fascinating case study, but the sources are saying we can't really copy and paste it somewhere else.
Precisely. Those genetic and geographical factors are, by definition, irreplaceable. It informs our understanding, but it's not a blueprint for living to 100 in, say, Chicago.
And Italy's overall numbers are still high.
Very high. Life expectancy is 83.1 years. That's 8th globally, and second in Europe only to Spain. And the number of centenarians is growing fast, over 22,500 as of January 2024.
Mostly women, I assume.
Yes, 81% female. And interestingly, the region with the highest concentration of them today isn't Sardinia, it's Liguria on the northwest coast.
That brings us to this beautiful new project connecting well-being and culture, the Arte Salute project in Rome, art and health.
It's a deliberate effort to make culture therapeutic. It's built on solid evidence that viewing art can stimulate the same areas of the brain as seeing a loved one.
And how are they doing it? The practical steps are compelling.
They're installing video monitors, digital paintings, right inside oncology and dialysis units. They're showing Rome's incredible cultural heritage right next to the treatment chairs.
Wow, so they're literally putting the museum experience into the hospital?
It's a move to humanize those environments, to care for the whole person, not just the disease. And they're running a formal medical study on it with questionnaires to prove it improves outcomes. It's science verifying the value of human experience.
Speaking of science and heritage converging, this next bit is just mind-blowing. Using high-tech medical diagnostics for art restoration.
It's fascinating. They're using cutting-edge medical services to protect centuries of cultural heritage. They took these priceless works like the deposed Christ right into the imaging room at a hospital in Milan.
So they put a centuries-old statue through a CT scanner.
Exactly. CT scans, X-rays, outside of patient hours, of course.
And what does that tell them?
It's totally non-invasive, so it lets restorers map out construction techniques, see what's inside, find hidden defects, all without drilling a single hole or scraping any paint.
That completely changes the job description for a restorer. It's not just an artisanal craft anymore.
No, it demands a new kind of literacy. The sources say a modern restorer needs expertise in physics, material science, chemistry. It's this uniquely Italian model, a collaboration between a hospital and a restoration school.
As we land this deep dive, we have to mention this recent cultural event, the arrival of the Amerigo Vespucci training ship in Trieste.
An incredible sight, saluted by the Frecce Tricolori jets. It's a 94-year-old ship.
And it just finished a 2-year, 46,000 nautical mile world tour.
Yes, a 94-year-old ship, still going strong, serving as an ambassador for Italy. It just endured 2 years traversing the entire globe.
That idea of endurance, of perseverance, it really ties back to everything we've talked about today, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, if you connect it back to the bigger picture, The long, decades-long fight for legal rights on assisted suicide, the persistence needed to study longevity in Sardinia, the continuous evolution of fertility treatments.
Or even the careful work of preserving art.
It all points back to that ship's powerful motto.
The one attributed to Leonardo da Vinci. Non ci chi comincia ma quel che persevera.
Not he who begins, but he who perseveres. Enduring commitment. That's the underlying force driving progress in all of these complex areas, from health policy to legal reform to science, which I think raises an important question for you, our listener. When you look at this picture of Italian life, what area of knowledge or what pursuit of your own do you feel you need to persevere in next?